Nice meeting you all. Thanks for coming today. The reason why we're here is data is revolutionizing deal making. We have access to more deals that are coming at us faster. We have new data sets to analyze those deals, new methods to memorialize our historical performance or lack thereof, and new ways to communicate and collaborate on these deals. And now it's kind of presenting a new challenge. More data, more problems. So these speakers here today will do their best, share their best methods of both marrying traditional practices with also cutting edge technology to explain how to win deals as well as to drive investment returns that outperform the competition. So we'll start with intros on the panel. I'll give a start. My name is Jeremy. I work with Prophia. We service the portfolios of about 180 investment managers and operators. On the investment management side, folks like PGIM or Nuveen or Harrison Street Asset Management. On the operating side, RXR, related companies, Macerich. And we focus just on commercial assets. We are an asset or AI abstracts and lease management platform that's purpose built for asset management. And customers end up buying us for really two main reasons: is 1 out of 10 leases has a $50,000 or greater oversight, and we flag and fix those. And also just the promise of AI, we give 90% of the time back or greater for abstraction, lease reviews, auditing, stuff like that. And we're at booth 103 if you want to come check us out. So maybe we can start off with you, Greg.
Sure. Greg Carey. I'm the Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer at the RMR Group. RMR is a asset manager, vertically integrated, spanning all asset classes here in the US. We have around 40 billion in assets under management.
I'm Sach. I'm the Global Head of Technology at LaSalle Investment Management. LaSalle is a wholly owned subsidiary of Jones Lang LaSalle, but we operate somewhat independently of the mothership. We have about 90 billion in assets under management spread out globally. So that's one of my many challenges is we're almost a third Americas, a third Europe, and a third Asia Pacific. And so trying to implement and manage technology across the globe and actually get usage and adoption is why I have so many gray hairs.
Same. Jim Carr, I'm Chief Innovation Officer at BGO. And I oversee global technology for us. And I also, ironically, for some reason, oversee our centralized procurement group, which is totally unrelated to IT. I know, real fun. But, and then BGO, if you don't know us, we are about now 95 billion assets under management. We have about 40 funds across the globe, about 35 offices globally. So I manage a very large, complex IT organization. Very similar. We have open-ended, closed-ended funds. We have we invest in almost every real estate asset class you can think of. So the technology complexity is more of a challenge as well.
Jim. Joel?
Yeah, hi, I'm Joel Cesare. I lead the growth team at Cambio. Cambio is an AI native technology platform that works with large commercial real estate platforms like BGO and LaSalle, our current clients, to help identify energy efficiency and decarbonization pathways at scale. So a little background on how I got here. I was at Google before this, and I led Google's global real estate net zero program. And of course, here today, tomorrow, there's going to be a lot of AI companies, and we're all using those buzzwords. But I think how we apply it, like for me, it really resonates this particular use case where it's streamlining and disrupting a workflow where at Google, I hired consultants that took me millions of dollars and years to develop these plans where a platform like Cambio uses AI to do in a fraction of the time for a fraction of the cost. So excited to be here today.
It's a pretty good pitch. Cool. Well, let's get into the first topic or question. So on the investment side, everyone has more data than ever. And we're just kind of curious, where is data actually creating that competitive advantage in your deal process today? And maybe Sach, if you wouldn't mind, kick us off.
Sure. And I love when you start off with mo data, mo problems. I think we all need t-shirts that say that. But in terms of trying to leverage data to create a competitive advantage, the way we're kind of looking at it is how can we use data further towards the start of the process to get through more deals, to screen deals faster, to weed things out much faster so that you'll have a higher quality of deals and higher quality of information that goes before the investment committee. So we're really looking at how do we inject our research-driven process into the initial deal screening so that it doesn't even go to allocation. or by the time it goes to allocation, we've already done a portfolio analysis using the technology that then the portfolio manager can raise their hand and say, yes, I want this deal, and here's why, so that you don't spend time doing that analysis to justify it in the investment committee process. So basically trying to pull all that up front using digital technology.
And I can imagine like that allows you to actually focus, like your teams can actually focus on what's going to be most effective there. And do you have like an example on a recent transaction where you kind of saw that really like pay for itself? Let's put it that way.
I don't, unfortunately, because we are in the middle of kind of rolling out our deal screener and deal analyzer, like literally now.
Okay, so same time next year, we'll have the same conversation.
Yes.
Greg, how about you?
Yeah, I think for us, the big competitive advantage that we see in data is because we're vertically integrated, we're getting data, from the operations of the asset itself. And so we're taking that kind of our 40-year track record of operating assets along with investing in assets and making that our competitive advantage as it relates to the deal process. For me, I think that bringing together the external data sets that we kind of all buy or get free off government data sources with that proprietary internal knowledge is how we're driving that competitive advantage today. It's really leading to better underwriting and faster underwriting, kind of as Sach had mentioned. We want to be able to screen a lot more deals a lot quicker without adding human capital. The time of our acquisitions officers and analysts is really valuable. So we only want them spending their human judgment time on things that not just pass like a preliminary screen, but have done kind of a preliminary full underwrite.
Yeah. And so what's interesting there is you're saying like we have 40 years of historical data. It's like, I know I'm saying we have the same quality all 40 years, but from whether it's the asset operations data or how we actually performed on assets in the past when we exited, what's an example of like some kind of the data point that you feel like your business teams really lean in on that like internal historical data?
So I think what we're really trying to do is look at the different market cycles that we've seen over time and how the underwriting is compared to the actual exits of the investments. Then tie that back to certain market cycles so we can understand as we're moving forward which assets work well in which market cycles, so we can make sure we're kind of leaning into those at the right time.
Okay. Jim, how about you?
Yeah, for us, obviously data gets complex. And so the biggest thing, for data is to make sure the data is reliable. Each data element's reliable, and there's a single source of the truth for which every data element you're going to use. And then make sure it's meaningful for the business, if the business is actually going to use it, and you're going to put it in tools that make sense. So for us, what we did is, over the first few years I was there, we did a massive system rationalization effort to try and make sure that all of our vendor tools were reliable and had the source of the truth for every data element. And then we slowly introduced a data platform, a data hub as well, to handle the more complex data, where we have to pull data and information and need to report for various sources. And then from a deal perspective, we implemented a deal collaboration tool a couple of years ago that works for pretty much all deals around the globe.
Okay.
And then I won't bore you with all the details. And then to take it a step further, what we recently did was we connected the deal system with our data hub, with our back office systems, because one of the challenges we had was everybody having visibility to the deals. And so it was all through emails and things like that. So connecting the deal collaboration system, the front office, and then leveraging our data platform so that the middle office and back office can also have access and underwrite the deals effectively as well.
Okay. Maybe a follow-up, like what I'm hearing so far from the three of you is you're kind of like building a full learning loop, right? From deal screening through investment committee, tracking performance, investor reporting. Jim, maybe as like a follow-up, you guys represent some of the biggest firms out there, BGO, LaSalle, RMR. If I'm a non-Goliath investment manager and I'm trying to get started, what's something that provides quick ROI wins for the team, but also lays that like foundation where we don't have to rip this out in a few years? Like, what's something that you would recommend?
No, it's a great question. And that's what I always say is like, when I talk about my group, we're a large real estate organization, one of the largest in the world. So in some ways, I feel like I have a very lean team, relatively speaking, but at the same time, I have the luxury of having a distinct, defined data team that handles a lot of the things I'm talking about. But if you're a smaller organization, back in my advisory days, I had a lot of clients that were, 1 billion, 3 billion AUM. It's a whole different animal on how you structure your technology and your IT team. So I don't know. I think that hopefully this answers your question. I would say just keep it simple, right? Define what you need from a core accounting platform. Use one system that makes sense. keep your technology stack as simple as possible. And the mistake I see sometimes is people will throw too much technology, and just look at the size and scale of your organization and structure your technology accordingly, and really define and understand what the business and what your investors really need from a data perspective, and keep it as simple as possible. We intentionally didn't roll out our data platform the first couple of years I was there because we had so much technology and systems to rationalize on our third-party systems. So that's the other thing I would say is, I don't know if there's really not a silver bullet out there, but I would say just keep it as simple as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that there's a lot better technology than, one of our biggest problems is legacy processes. People don't want to get rid of their underwriting spreadsheets or whatever. And so if you could start from scratch with the new sort of SaaS-based tools that are out there, you actually could move a lot faster because you don't have to deal with all this sort of legacy. This is how we've always done it.
Gotcha. And Joel, like, what's some experiences that you've seen in the field, like, you know, your customers and how they're implementing you guys, where they're seeing the ROI on this?
Well, I have a great story to tell. I think it leads to Sasha's point about trying to get as upstream as possible and make decisions quickly. Like, you guys in a world of too much data, noise, like you don't want data, you want insights, right? So we have a product where we launch it for deals where our core product, if we deploy it for BGO, is to identify energy efficiency opportunities within their assets during the hold. But we can apply the same technology to an acquisition process to say, if we're going in to potentially buy a building, is there an energy efficiency opportunity that maybe my competitors aren't seeing that allows me to change the way I'm approaching this deal structure? So I'll tell a quick story. We had a client come to us recently and knew about this tool, and they had a European investor who had a thesis, like, we want to invest in energy efficiency, like, acquisitions. We think there's an opportunity here across a fund to say, let's target poor energy performing buildings and buy them and make them better energy performing buildings. And they use our product to look at a couple of the early opportunities. And one of the assets we came back and showed, like, look, there's not really any energy efficiency opportunities here that are going to drive ROI. There was like some lighting, some solar, some envelope stuff, but it was showing very poor return on investment. And the client came back to us kind of annoyed, like, well, why isn't this showing us anything better? And we said, this is the point. You're identifying now at this stage of this process, this is not going to fulfill your goal of energy efficiency across this fund. So it's this idea of, I think to the point you guys are saying, like, let's use tools and SaaS products that can tell us things faster, quicker, earlier, so we can all make better decisions.
Yeah, it's a different way to look at, like, a screening, depending on what's most important to you.
And to Sasha's point, like, our biggest challenge is trying to convince users, like, there's a better way to do this than your old spreadsheets. There's tools that can help you make decisions faster. But I'm sure, Jeremy, you have these same challenges.
I think those are just unique to you guys. We've never had those problems. All right, well, topic 2. So in a highly competitive deal environments, how do you balance both, like, moving faster with the human conviction, especially when there's a gap where the data doesn't fully agree? And Greg, maybe we can start with you on this.
Yeah, I think, we look at it as kind of two different perspectives coming at it. We've kind of built this proprietary underwriting platform we call RMR Nexus, which is giving us kind of a scoring and underwriting output. Now, if the deal team doesn't agree, with that data that's coming in, we don't treat that as kind of a problem. We look at where's the gap. There must be something in the human judgment that we're seeing that the data can't pick up, right? So it's either something about the local operator, something about maybe a redevelopment opportunity that the data doesn't actually show in the market itself. So we really look at kind of making sure that we understand where they diverge and kind of leaning into both of them.
Okay.
And just trying to make that so that way, again, we're uncovering opportunities. We actually did a recent deal. We're trying to build a portfolio of value add retail assets. And so we had some pre-screen criteria around what we'll look at. And so what the model said is, that this wasn't a great opportunity, but our head of investments looked at it and said, I actually think it is. And we kind of really dug into why he felt that way. And it's really interesting because, in that environment, some of the data is just not going to kind of uncover for retail what you're looking for.
And so a follow-up to that, which maybe is hard to answer, but so you have someone that jumps in and says, like, here's my expertise, my evaluation that overrides the signal from the data.
Yep.
How do you, like, document and memorialize the human decision so you could use it again a year from now, 2 years from now, different stakeholders, different people? Like,
we're feeding that intelligence back into the system. So we have basically a reason for divergence field that people will populate. And then that will feed back into the model to understand the next time you encounter that situation, try to incorporate that perspective.
What's an example of that? As simple as it could be, but what it?
Yeah, maybe just in a specific market, you may find that a specific retail asset maybe isn't great for renovation because it's already too saturated, with a specific type of retailer.
Jim, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, for the question, I think the big thing for us is, and it's going to sound like a cliche, but anytime we're rolling out some technology to enable these things, is just making sure that there's the right business sponsorship and there's a clear definition of the use case or what you're trying to solve for, and make sure that there's a clear business involvement. Like before we rolled out our deal collaboration tool, we were doing deal analysis and deal management across the globe in spreadsheets in a variety of different ways. I guess, obviously stating the obvious is going to sound cliche, but just making sure that all the requirements were defined very clearly of what the business needed for a deal collaboration system, right? And making sure when we rolled it out that there was clear business sponsorship. And believe it or not, the way our organization works is they want everything done right away. And sometimes they'll think that the technology is going to drive the behavior. And so, and I told them I've been doing this for 25 years and that never happens. And so you have to have sponsorship and you have to have a clear definition of what you're trying to solve for. So you can define success. And so I guess in my mind, the main thing is just, again, sounds obvious, but making sure clear definition of what you want to solve for, especially when we're talking about the deal side, who's going to sponsor it, and then how is the system, like you were talking about, how is the system going to be continually managed by the business to update and get the proper inputs and outputs?
Got it. Sach, how about you?
Yeah, kind of not dissimilar to what Greg said is that, there may be instances where a deal looks so good, even though it may contradict the research assumptions about that particular submarket or that particular property type, et cetera. So that gets brought before investment committee, and all of that is documented in sort of this workflow decision tool. So there's Q&A as part of that. And so people can look at the Q&A. Ultimately, it's a judgment call by the investment committee, but capturing that and documenting is the reasons why you're sort of overriding your research assumptions.
And are there, well, maybe this is to the group, like Sach building off of that, is can you all distill it down to 1, 2, top 3 things that are non-technical signals? Like you talk about the human judgment of understanding retail concentration, or if it's understanding this potential operating partner, JV partner, like what is it? Are there common things it distills down to, or you just can't really capture that yet through technology lens? That really, like, if you have the data signal that's saying value here, our investment management team is saying here, what are those common things that are closing that gap that are non-technology?
I think for us, it depends on the market. Like the deal teams kind of have some distinct factors that are kind of define whether they're going to, if it is a question around the kind of how they're going to determine whether they're going to make the investment in the property or the group of properties.
Yeah.
I think, each group from what I've seen in our, depending on market, whether it's our, America's market, whether it's Canada, whether it's Asia, they have some of their own unique factors, but obviously we pull in, market conditions. We'll look at competitor data, a variety of things to kind of make the determination. And then you mentioned the human element. Our deal teams are, like other organizations, are so sophisticated that there is kind of the human judgment as well at the end of the day.
Yeah.
To kind of determine if we're going to proceed.
Okay.
And then sometimes I've noticed when we've made some kind of big acquisitions of portfolios, sometimes it may not even pencil completely, but there's some other market reasons, like we want to further represent this asset class in this market. There's what I've learned, is that there's other reasons that may, financially speaking, that may not make the most sense, but there's some other reasons to diversify our portfolio, a variety of things that that kind of the leaders with all their experience will kind of just make a judgment call.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was trying to get at. Like these are things where it's not, they're showing me there's a better use of the capital, but from a diversification standpoint, I don't know if there's a relationship with an operator, a specific market you're trying to like.
Yeah, and I won't call out the market, but I remember during COVID, we were buying a massive office portfolio.
Great time to do that.
In a continent, and I'm like, And I asked my boss, who's a COO, I'm like, I know I'm just a IT guy, but I'm curious, but I was from the finance side and the asset management side years ago, but why are we doing this? And they knew the culture that people were going to move back to the office. And so they took the long game on it. But if you looked at the numbers at the time, we were probably overpaying. And now it's one of our best investments, several years later, because certainly, people move back to the office post-COVID.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting to me. That's to me the fun stuff to kind of see and look at how the deal teams are analyzing this stuff.
That's good.
And you also hit on something. You said JV position. Sometimes there may be a JV partner that has a larger stake in the deal, so that could sway the kind of the outcome.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I can't because it depends on the particular JV partner.
Okay.
And don't want to mention them.
Oh, yeah. I was not asking for names.
Yeah, I've been trying not to mention tools either, because I don't know if I'm supposed to.
I'm not asking them.
Yeah, I know. But my big mouth sometimes tries.
Along this lens, if I can ask the three gentlemen here a question, of course, I've described our product as energy sustainability focused, so forgive me if this is my bias, but we at least have an observation that energy has changed in the calculus of real estate because what's happening with data centers, with electricity rates. So I guess my question to you guys, in your career, is that true? Are you seeing, is it the conversation changing around we have to really pay attention to energy right now as we look at deals? Or is it still low on the priorities as it historically has been?
So I'll jump in. I also oversee our energy and sustainability group at RMR. And so my perspective is in the last year, 18 months or so, the amount that we're looking at is not necessarily the energy, but it's more around regulatory. So how are regulations and building performance standards at certain assets factored into the underwriting to make sure that we're not buying an asset in a market such as Denver that has it's stranded because of some massive fine that we're not underwriting. That's maybe why the person's selling. So I think we're more looking at it from that way of underwriting risk for other building performance standards versus just actual energy costs accelerating going up.
Yeah, we are, especially in the UK and across Europe, concerned about the possibility of having stranded assets due to various regulations in the portfolio. So yes, we're trying to actively, quietly kind of exit those properties.
Yeah. And it's kind of Jeremy.
Very similar situation for us. And then we just got into the data center business of all things too. So got a whole different animal to deal with as well.
Well, it's like Jeremy, you said, there's data, there's quantitative, and then there's these guys are paid the big bucks because they have instincts. There's professionals that make decisions and this regulatory thing, as you're saying, Denver, will it be enforced? Are there cities that are going to have their own regulations coming? Europe has its own challenges. So it's, there's technology and then there's professional instincts that lead to all these decisions.
Yeah, I agree. Well, going back to mo data, mo problems, as tools and data sets continue to multiply, how are you guys best simplifying your investment workflows so the teams can just focus on a few, I don't say really simply, but a few insights that truly matter rather than getting stuck into this analysis paralysis feedback loop? Maybe Jim, I could start with you.
Yeah, sure. So I mentioned, we did through our growth and acquisitions, we inherited a lot of technology. And so we did a massive system rationalization effort. I think I mentioned this on a couple of panels. When I joined back in 2021 through growth and acquisition, we're an organization that went from about 5 billion AUM and then, a little over half a decade later, we were 80, which is crazy. So we inherited a lot of technology, a lot of tools. So, and then we had different departments that had very complex data needs. But I intentionally, and everyone was saying, we need a data lake. So I would say what we did first is we rationalized our systems first, one ERP, one investor portal, one deal system. We did that effort first to make sure that we had as much as possible the source of the truth. And then we rolled out, and then to handle your question, then we rolled out our data platform, which we decided to self-build. And that's where we really, when we did that, we identified, okay, what are some of the biggest performance measures and things we need to solve for from a data perspective that the third-party systems don't provide. And one of the biggest things was investor reporting. And then there was a bunch of key performance measures that our executives wanted. And so we stuck and defined those performance measures first, and that's what we rolled out first in our data hub.
And what's an example of that?
NOI. About occupancy, right? So our execs will want to be able to look anywhere across the globe and say, okay, for this market, this asset class, I want to be able to look at occupancy, economic occupancy trends. So there's about, Brandon, you would know, I got my data person. There are probably we defined about 30 key performance measures like that for the executives that we rolled out first in our data hub. Physical occupancy, economic occupancy, NOI, so we can look at trailing NOI by market, by asset class. So there's a variety of things.
Got it. Thank you.
Sorry, long-winded answer to your question.
That's good. Sach, how about you?
So one of the things we're focused on is trying to give people at the time of IC, at the time of investment committee, as much information at their fingertips as possible. So we focused on rolling out kind of a GPT-enabled analysis tool where they could look at the current IC memo, but then compare it against other IC memos we've done over the last, say, 10 years to say, based on this kind of deal in this market, how are the last 5 deals we've done for like a similar type of deal? And that's gotten a lot of adoption, but of course, as soon as you roll it out, they want more. And so now they want to know, well, how does this compare against JLL's research projections? How does this compare against the actual performance of assets for deals we've done in that area? So it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? As soon as you give them something they like, they want more, but it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it is. Well, it means you're on the right track, right?
Yeah.
Greg, what do you think?
Yeah, so we tried to start with the end in mind and then the decision that the investments team are trying to make, and then work backwards to the data that would actually impact that decision making. So what we've actually done is partnered kind of our acquisitions and asset management team, those that are kind of closest to the work, with my technology team, right? So it would be me sitting in a room with our chief investment officer, we're going to strategizing over these big ideas, but the people that are actually underwriting the deals and are actually factoring in what goes into investment committee memos are those people that we connected with the technologists that can actually get the data and then make and act on building the technology to get there.
Gotcha. And are you breaking that down to like different parts of the process from deal screening all the way through to investment committee?
So we're starting first with kind of the deal screening, which is, we are trying to grow our portfolio, grow our private capital under management. And for us, we want to make sure we have a really robust pipeline of deals that we can show to prospective partners. So we're kind of starting at the top of the funnel to make sure we can expand what opportunity sets we're actually evaluating and have ready to go to make investments in versus like from where we've already underwrote and we're like writing the memo. So we'll get there, but we kind of started at the top of the funnel.
Gotcha. And what were like some of the the challenges that you were hearing from your teams of trying to distill that information down? What were the common themes?
A lot of it really came down to just they would need more human capital to do it. If they want to underwrite 10 times as many deals, they need 10 times as many people. And like we don't want to build a robust pipeline to go and market around to private capital by investing in more human capital. So we're really just trying to take our teams that are their knowledge and kind of codify it into the systems. So that way we can do all of that initial underwriting that an investment analyst would do.
Okay. Joel, anything that you're seeing with your clients you're working with?
Well, if you don't mind, I'd love to ask another question of the panelists. Sach said GPT product. It's the first time I think we've referenced AI on this panel, which is interesting.
We said we weren't going to say it.
Well, I guess my question is like you guys who have seen cycles, have all this experience, and seems to you have a perspective of like too much data, too many products is noise. There needs to be consolidation, needs to be simplicity. What's the tone right now in your organization around AI adoption? Is it a directive to you guys saying, why aren't we doing more? We should be doing more? Or are maybe you guys saying, look, we've seen cycles before. We got to tread carefully before we adopt something.
You want to answer?
What I hear is, hey, BGO is rolling out all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Why aren't we? Right?
I get the same, yeah. No, it's funny. How do I answer this? It's funny. So structurally speaking, we put a heavy emphasis on our AI initiatives, right? So we have an AI steering committee that has 2 business sponsors and myself that are the SteerCo sponsors. And then we have some IT people and some business people that are part of that. We meet every other week, right? So there's a heavy focus on our AI initiatives. Regarding to your question, I think the biggest challenge, right, is exactly, Sach, what you said, right? Is like we get leadership, executive leadership. Well, shit, I've heard this group is doing this, and they've enabled this using AI, and blah blah blah. And then you talk to each other and find out what the reality of it is versus the marketing of it. So it's just balancing in our role, just balancing that expectation, right, and also trying to get some wins at the same time is always a big challenge. So I don't know. Hopefully that answers your question.
But the FOMO is unbelievable.
The what?
The FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Yes,
from
that is
leadership.
so true. Because I hear this group's doing this and doing that, and how come we're not doing it? And so just trying to manage those expectations continually. I know this wasn't your question, but from an AI strategy perspective, we've taken the approach of giving licenses as needed, and then if people aren't actively using their AI tools that we give them, we will discontinue them. But then also trying a bunch of different things. So our view is we don't know who the winners are going to be yet, and so we're mostly using ChatGPT, and branded it BGO Chat because I'm not very creative. But then we're trying Claude. We're trying a bunch of other things for different use cases based on what the business wants. So.
Yeah, I mean, from our side, like, I know that things are moving very fast and there's always new noise, but actually for us on the technology provider side, 2022 and 23 were like the most distracting years because that's when ChatGPT came out and everyone just said, I got to do something. And 22 and 23 were just like a lot of wrappers around crap. And it kind of created a bad taste in everybody's mouth. But I feel like I'll have to use AI like as saying it, but it really is now coming back down. What are the top problems we need to like solve? And embedded in all that will be artificial intelligence, but it's no longer saying, what are we doing with AI? And it's kind of exhausting, even working at an AI company. It's just, what is the problem you're trying to solve? How high does this make it up your corkboard of what you're trying to solve for? And no longer having to say like AI is got to be part of it because it's.
No, it's funny you said wrappers around crap because that's the biggest challenge I have from our executives to say, well, hey, we need to AI enable this and solve this process.
Yeah.
And then when I describe how intricate the process is and how we have some broken procedures within the business and until those business, how the business operates changes a bit, you are throwing wrapper around crap, right? So totally. I know that's, a very general statement, but it's true because I think sometimes, I'm not saying the executives, they're way smarter than me, but I will tell you, like, a lot of times they think you can just throw AI on something and solve it. But then you've got to really be able to articulate that, hey, look, we've got to solve this, this, and this in order to automate that using an AI tool.
Yeah, we're going to have institutional grade, long-sustaining kind of foundation and tools built on top of that, or we're going to just kind of throw a bunch of slop and mess together and give you something tomorrow. Well, next topic I feel like I'll have some input on is, so everything we've talked about is what tools, what are we building, what are we buying, how are we deploying? But here's the hard part, which I imagine gave some gray hairs, is let's talk about implementation and adoption of this stuff. So what's the biggest shift that you had to make internally to ensure that the data is actually informing decisions or helping lead decisions rather than sitting in a dashboard? And maybe Sach, I could start with you.
Sure. So part of it is, and I'll start with the dashboard, but then trying to go beyond the dashboard. So part of it is enforcing behavioral change. And the first part of that is getting people to fully populate the deal data. And so by having allocations meetings and pipeline meetings where you're actually showing the data in the system, and your head of acquisitions says, well, why is information missing? It's not the system, it's the analyst who didn't put it in. So that's a behavioral change that by using the technology, it forces it sheds light on where there are problems. But then to go beyond that, how do you get beyond the dashboard? You have to make this much more interactive. So we're trying to create scenario tools where somebody could put in, well, what if the cap rate was a little different, or what if market conditions change? So I think we haven't gotten there yet. It's on our kind of roadmap, and that is to make our house view, our sort of deal analysis modules completely interactive, so you can change assumptions on the fly.
Yeah, and kind of my follow-up to that is trying to take a peek behind the curtain of what you all are doing. Is this all living in the same kind of platform for all different business teams to use, or are you sending this to something that's more native to each business team that they're more likely to already engage in because they're already using it? Like, how far are you trying to create different implementation or adoption?
So we're building our own platform on top of our data lake. But of course, using kind of off-the-shelf tools for like all this standard pipeline screening processes, but then augmenting them with kind of our own capabilities.
And are there separate capabilities for an investment reporting team versus acquisitions team within the same?
Yeah, so we're building modules for acquisitions, for research, and then for the IC.
Okay, that was always something I was curious about. Greg, what about you?
Yeah, to me, it's all about accountability, right? So when I think about when we're asked to do something, by our business users, a lot of the times I want to understand what are they going to do differently if we give them this capability or this report or dashboard or whatever they're asking for. So we've kind of moved. We are still building dashboards, but we're moving more towards actually delivering like data embedded into processes instead of just asking managers to go and look at dashboards, interpret the dashboard, and then figure out what action they're going to take. We're trying to bring the recommended action directly to them based on what the data is telling us. So it's a big change that we're going through right now. An example on the multifamily front, we manage assets, throughout the Sun Belt, and our JV partners want Monday morning reporting. The asset managers, they want to see every Monday morning, how is this asset performing from a leasing, occupancy, what's been the number of tours that have been completed, et cetera. So the property managers today spend a lot of time actually collecting information from different dashboards or different systems, putting their own spin on the analysis of what the story is for that asset. And the Monday morning report kind of turns into like a Monday night report, and sometimes it's a Tuesday morning report. So what we want to move towards is actually on Monday morning, they walk in as the property manager, and the draft report is there for them that they can then go and tweak and edit and then add their own commentary on top of, instead of spending a lot of their time analyzing data from dashboards.
Yeah, and maybe this is open to the group, but whether you're talking about a property manager, multifamily property manager, an asset manager, or acquisitions person, like, how do you best build a trust with a high enough percentage of the business users? Because like, you kind of think of it as an adoption curve. Day one, like, only get your first people that are really leaning in. You got to get to that critical mass to get people really where enough are doing it, where this is the process. Because as much as you could try to force it, it really takes it where enough people are doing this that you're the person left out that's not getting it. How do you all think about that?
Yeah, I mean, for us, like when we rolled out our data platform, we consume internally, we manage properties and externally, but we manage, our asset managers manage at the property level. So we pull in rent rolls. We have asset level detail that's required to pull in on an asset by asset basis. And you'd think logically we would have rolled out our data hub to asset management first, but we didn't. We rolled it out to portfolio management because there were bigger, portfolio management being the groups that actually compile everything and do the investor reporting and the business planning at a more global level. We intentionally didn't roll it out to asset management first, even though we're consuming that asset level detail, because we felt like the influence was at the portfolio management level in the organization. Yeah. And there were some things that group needed to solve for, mainly investor reporting. That was the first thing we did, was using our data platform. We're doing our investor reporting, all through Excel, manually, painful as heck. Still a little painful, but we've automated most of that now through our data platform. And so we've solved for some of the needs of portfolio management, and now we've been rolling out capabilities and functionality to asset management.
The next team
so we kind of took an inverse approach than I think some people would do.
Yeah, I feel like the data you're collecting is more granular, so you build it up. You want to build them up.
Yeah, obviously you need the asset detail and you need to validate that it's all accurate for the roll-ups, but that's how we, to your question about how we got buy-in, we knew the influence was at that level.
Yeah.
And then now we're slowly rolling it out to, we've been rolling it out features and capabilities to asset management.
Gotcha. Well,
yeah, sorry.
No, I got you off.
No, that was it.
Yeah, well, you bring up an interesting word, pain. So I think kind of impromptu to you all, like, we're all talking about the successes and the things that we've done that have benefited the organization. There's a messy middle in there where we got to where we're at today, where we didn't succeed every time we did something the first time. And you're dealing with business teams, asset managers and acquisitions folks, portfolio managers, sometimes short attention spans, sometimes they're already moved on to the next shiny object. Like, what's the best practice that you all have, and I know you don't do it by yourselves, to get them to stick with the process when the first iterations aren't what they wanted. Because I feel like that's got to be really hard to do. I'd love to hear some of the best insights here.
Well, I'll take that one, but I'll put a slightly different spin on it, and that is sometimes you need the right kind of leadership support. And we have actually, as we've turned over various leaders and acquisitions teams globally, we've pushed to get people who are more tech savvy and tech forward, believe it or not, because we've had some acquisitions leaders in the past that have said, well, I don't want my people with their hands on their keyboards. I want them out going have lunch with, the deal teams, with brokers, and because that's how they've always done it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, when we fill that new head of acquisitions in the US, it's got to be a tech savvy person.
I can't tell you how many investment managers I speak to that is we are retooling our staff, not giving them new tools. We're getting new people because we have the old dogs that don't want to learn new tricks. And this is the way the world's going. And it's not the technology professionals are leading that. It's the principals that are saying, we are doing this, either get on board or don't. So it's interesting perspective. Any other case studies or horror stories from the group?
Lots of horror stories, but
Yeah. Well,
Can I ask a question?
no. Yeah.
I really want to hear.
You have to stand up if you're going to do it.
Sorry, I really want to ask you. This is an AI section. I want to ask you: do you use AI as an invest analyst to underwrite your deals? Very simple question. Do you use AI analyst in your shop?
The question was, do you all use an AI analyst in your shops for underwriting deals?
We are actively building one that will be launched within the next 3 weeks.
See, this is where the FOMO hits me, because then someone from my team is going to hear about this and they're like, why don't we have this? No, we are giving our analysts who are doing the underwriting AI tools like Claude and others, but no, we're not doing that yet. Darn it. And I know I'm going to hear about it.
yeah, thanks, man. No, just kidding. No, yeah, same as Sach. We provide the tools, but we haven't built a defined, feature and process. But we just give them the tools.
Hi, everyone. Great session. It's wonderful to learn from leading investment firms. I'm curious, as a data platform builder, what is your process of evaluating build versus buy? Because everything was about building internally. I think my mic went off, so I'll be louder.
Sure.
How do you think about build versus buy? And are you considering buying any solutions out there?
My general philosophy is buy to the extent you can, right? So for, things I mentioned earlier, like investor portal, core accounting platform, all these things, big fan of buying and using the technology that's available from third-party vendors. For us on the data lake side, we did look at third parties, and I don't think that's a wrong answer, by the way. I think there's several of my peers that I know have bought third-party data platforms that they're using successfully. The reason we decided to build was, one, when we did a typical said, hey, these are the things we want out of our data lake. I know it's going to expand, and data lakes are never-ending things, right? But the reason we decided to build internally was we just felt the complexity of our needs was so substantial over time that we thought it would be better to kind of leverage a team internally and build things purposely for the things that we need that are pretty intricate. Because then when you use a third party, it's again not the wrong answer. You have to manage a service level agreement, right? And everything's very based on the service level agreement. And if you deter from that, it gets complicated for both the vendor and for us. So yeah, we did the typical process. We defined the requirements we wanted. We looked at third parties. We looked at the cost and the benefit. But again, with the data lake, that's when we decided to do it ourselves. But we do use third parties for the development of some of the things we do. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, ditto. I think just given the size and complexity, if we were just, one region with a couple of asset classes would be much easier, but yeah, it's impossible.
Yeah.
I would just add on, the cost to build is going down drastically. When you AI enable your software development team and your data teams, they're able to build a lot more now, a lot more quickly at a lower cost. So, I can't believe that I'm saying that I'm erring on the side of more build than buy. But in the last 8 months, kind of like light bulb moment, goes off, and you're like, because we want to build things that are, give us competitive differentiation. We want to buy things that are commodities in the market. To Jim's point on core accounting platforms, no interest in building a core accounting platform.
Yeah. Let's see if AI can build it. But yeah. And then, but you know what, but we're always open. We still talk to a lot of the vendors that offer data lakes, because a lot of times, we're hearing that they're building certain algorithms that will consume certain market data that's very unique, right? That we haven't done. And so we're always talking to the vendors that are out there to see what they can offer. So there may be, to me, it's not all or nothing with the data lakes, right? So even though we do everything internally and we built a platform internally, like I said, we'll still use third-party developers for certain things we want to roll out in our data lake. And then we're constantly talking to the vendors out there because they're building things that, we may want to buy that service or that offering from them.
Well, we got 1 minute left, so we'll do quick around the horn. Maybe Joel, start with you. So in 5 years, the best real estate investors and partners won't win because they have more data. They will win because they
use data to move quickly. I'll just add, like, Sach and Jim here are using our product. It's an AI platform to help them make decisions with energy. And our goal is, go back to implementation. Like, let's reduce soft costs. Let's reduce things that don't get you to actually adding value to your assets quicker, so that you can do the thing that technology is supposed to enable, which is making your assets more valuable.
Thank you. Greg, how about you?
So I'm going to ad-lib with what my investment officer told me to say to this group. We'll be the ones where human capital is better able to interpret and use the data outputs. So really, I think it's all about making sure that your team has those proprietary insights.
Thank you. Sach?
It'll be those who can use data to remove bias from their investment decision making.
Geez, couldn't have said it better myself. But that you can obviously rely on the data, and what data is actually going to be useful for the business.
Yeah, the reliability of the information is always, I think we're still battling with, right? Yeah. Cool. Well, I want to thank you all again for today. Thanks to the audience. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you out there. Thank you.